Case interviews are tough, but which case interview questions are the toughest? In this video, I compiled the most common case interview questions and also ranked them based on difficulty, so you know exactly how difficult each type of question can be. And at the end of the video, I also share with you my secret sequence that if you were to practice the case interviews in this order, all the cases are actually going to be a lot easier for you to master. And you'll be able to master the case interview process in as little as a week. By the way, if you like videos like these about the case interview process and how to master it, if you hit the like button, it'll tell me that you want more videos like these. All right, let's dive in. So the first case type we have here is the employee retention question. And as the name implies, this is all about helping an organization figure out how to retain its best employees. An example of this could be that an art museum is having issues with retaining its curators. So they might have brought in your consulting firm to figure out, well, how do we retain our curators? For employee retention, I ranked this an A because unlike other cases that you'll encounter that we'll go through in this video, an employee retention is more than just numbers, but you have to also be good with both the qualitative as well as the data. And in addition, it depends on the organization and there's a lot of restrictions. For example, if there's a budget constraint, that makes the case even harder. So employee retentions, I'll put as an A. The next type of case here, we have general profitability. This is when a client brings you in to help them improve their profitability overall. For example, let's say that a tire manufacturer hired your consulting firm to come in and fix its profits for the year. So you might be able to fix this by fixing the revenues, reducing the costs, or a combination of both. So it's right in the middle. I would consider a C tier here in terms of like average difficulty for a case interview. Next is cost cutting, which is what the name implies, is identifying ways that a company can save on cost. For example, a tour company might be seeing declining demand and want to bring you in to figure out how to save on cost. Cost cutting is actually one of the easier cases because unlike general profitability, where you have to determine, well, is the opportunity in revenue or cost, in a cost cutting case, you already know that it's going to be in cost. So you only have to look into the cost. And usually with cost, there's only really two buckets, which is variable cost and fixed cost. So here it's actually a lot easier cases and one of the easier ones you'll get. So I'll put this as a D tier. So the next type of case is a market entry case. This is when a company is looking to enter a new market. An example of this could be like an inspection company, let's say they're based in Ohio, wants to expand their operations. And so they're thinking, should they expand to other states? If so, how? For these traditional type of cases, you're going to be dealing a lot with revenues, costs, and profitability because, well, a company eventually, even if it's okay with taking losses in the beginning, will eventually need to make money. So it's similar to general profitability, but you're also having other elements such as a timeline, as well as other factors such as, does the company have the capabilities? Is it the right timing? What's the opportunity cost? So there's a little few more factors here. So it's a little bit more difficult than a general profitability built on that. So I would put this as a B tier. And by the way, if you are curious about the answer, if an Ohio-based home inspection company should expand to other states, I actually have a video where I walk you through a market entry case, how to solve it, and you'll also get an answer to this question as well. So I'll share that link below.
And by the way, if you're interested in becoming a management consultant, I have a surprise for you. I want to give you free access to a limited time workshop that my team and I are hosting. During this workshop, we reveal exactly what consulting firms like McKinsey, Bain, and BCG are looking for when they're thinking about who to interview and who to give offers to. And for a limited time, I want to give you access for free. To find out more details about how you can get free access, check out the link below.
The next type of case here are pricing strategy cases. As the name implies here, it's when a client wants you to come in and figure out what's the optimal pricing strategy for any of its goods or services or product. An example of a pricing strategy case could be that a mall that has access to parking lots wants to hire a consulting firm to figure out the different types of pricing models and revenue models it could have to maximize its profits with its parking lots. So you're going to be examining different types of models for pricing and how it affects the overall revenues and profits as well. Like the cost cutting cases, you're only focused on one lever. In this case, it's pricing. So it makes it a lot easier because you're only focused on one aspect versus trying to examine many aspects at once. That being said though, there are some nuances because pricing isn't as defined as cost, for example, where you're just looking at variable and fixed costs, but pricing has different types of models. And there's typically a lot of math involved in these, so these are going to be slightly more difficult than your cost cutting case, for example. So I'm going to put this on a C level, but it could easily have been in between a D and a C, so we'll call it a C minus. We'll put it in the C section for now. And if you are trying to build your knowledge on pricing cases and different pricing strategies, I'll link to another video below. Next, we have revenue growth. For example, you might be hired by a chemical manufacturer to bring in to figure out how to increase their revenues. The good news is that with revenue, there's really only three levers that you can pull and examine, which is, can you increase the price, can you increase the amount of volume that is sold, or can you increase the number of products that you have? Because of that, revenue growth cases are pretty straightforward and similar to cost cutting cases, about the same difficulty, except instead of focusing on cost, you focus on revenues. So I'm gonna put this also on a D tier. The next type of cases are lives affected, which are more geared towards how many lives they can save versus the profits they make. For example, the Gates Foundation might bring in consultants to try to figure out what's the best distribution model for a vaccine that I just developed. And the type of problem you get is very case dependent depending on the organization and their mission. So as a result, unlike the other traditional cost cutting or revenue growing or general profitability type cases, there's a lot more nuance. It's actually about the same difficulty as an employee retention. So I'm gonna put this in an A level. The next case we have is operations. This is all about optimizing the current business operations. For example, a hospital might bring you in because they've noticed that elderly patients are having more complaints about the time and quality of service. So you're being brought in to figure out, well, how do you actually improve the situation? Operations cases, I will tell you, involve a lot of numbers, a lot of information, and a lot of getting into the details, because unlike the other ones that are more strategic in nature, with operations, you're literally on the ground level trying to figure out how to improve a situation. As a result, this is actually one of the most difficult types of case interview questions that you can encounter. This deserves to be on the S tier, because you have to really be comfortable with multitudes depending on your interviewer. The final type of case that we have here are mergers and acquisitions. So mergers and acquisitions are actually quite similar to market entry as well as general profitability, which is that you're trying to evaluate if a merger or an acquisition makes sense for your client. For example, let's say that your client is a football club and they're trying to acquire the best football player in the world. Should they acquire him, and for how much? In fact, if you want to know the answer to that, I'll include the link below to that video where you can actually go more into an M&A case. So M&A cases are clearly defined because you know what the objective is, you know what the client wants, and you know what the client constraints are. So as a result of this is not too much of a difficult case, but it's not like a walk in the park either. So I'll put this in right in the middle of a C tier. So there you have it. That's all the case interview types ranked based on the difficulties. I'm curious, which case interview type gives you the most difficulty, or one that you're just working on? If you comment below, I'll give you some resources to help you. So for example, if you're struggling with the market entry, click market entry below, and I'll send you some resources so you can prepare for the market entry case. All right, now that you know how difficult the cases are, I don't want you to just start with the easiest cases and work your way up, or start from the most difficult cases and work your way down. Because while that will work, it's gonna take you a lot longer than if you just follow this certain sequence. So the sequence I developed, I thought about, well, what's the ordering of cases that you can learn that if you were to learn these cases, it makes every other case after it easier. I've used this method over and over again to help thousands of people pass their interviews, so I know it'll work for you. So this is the order. Number one, start with the market entry. The reason you want to start with the market entry is that one, it's the most common, and two, it helps you with all the other cases. The fundamentals of a market entry will help you with the general profitability because it touches about profitability. And because you're touching profitability, you'll also touch revenue and you'll touch cost cutting. And because you touch cost cutting and revenue, you also get to know the pricing strategies, and it's only a step afterwards. You can do this with M&A, operations, and so forth. So you can kind of see that the market entry case should be the first case that you master. After you master the market entry case, I recommend you go to general profitability, which is the second most common case. And when you work on general profitability, you're also going to grow your muscles for being able to do revenue growth cases as well as cost cutting cases. So after you master the general profitability, I recommend tackling by the revenue growth, then the cost cutting. After you've done those, the most common cases here is the M&A case, which builds on the first four cases you've already built. After M&A, you go straight to operations. Operations will build on what you've learned prior, but with more math and exhibits. After that, you will go to the less common cases, which include the pricing strategy, which you should have already learned a lot through the revenue growth cases, but this is its own category. And then finally, if you have time and you've mastered everything up to that point, then I would do the employee retention, then the lives affected. While these cases are considered one of the most common cases, they're not the most common, so I save these for last. So you can kind of see here how my ordering is all about making the cases easy, fun, but also builds on the fundamentals for you. And if you use the sequence, I promise you your prep time for mastering a case interview will be cut down. All right, so there you have it. You have all the cases ranked by difficulty, as well as how I would think about preparing for these.
If you're serious about becoming a management consultant, I'd love to help you. My team and I are former McKinsey, Bain, and BCG recruiters and interviewers who help applicants land interviews, prepare for their assessments, and pass the interviews so that they can land their offers at firms like McKinsey, Bain, BCG, and so many other amazing consulting firms. And for a limited time, you can access this training all for free. In it, we share with you the step-by-step proven process that has helped over 1,000 people land their consulting offers at some of the biggest firms in the world. And all you have to do to access this training is to check out the link below. And the proven method that you're going to learn in this workshop, we've used to help 90% of the people we work with land at least one consulting offer. In fact, many land multiple offers. And we're going to give it to you away for free. All you have to do to gain access to this is to check out the link below. Joining this workshop could put you one step closer to landing your dream consulting offer.